Hello, this is Tim Law with Playing It Forward Coaching, always encouraging your self-reliance. If you'll develop a marketable skill, chase that skill with a solid work ethic, people skills, teamwork. Always go the extra mile. You'll be amazed what you can accomplish in this country. A big thank you to 485 people who have subscribed to this channel, Playing It Forward Coaching. I very, very much appreciate it. If you haven't already, please do so. Thanks a lot ahead of time. Very, very happy to have a very good friend of mine who's going to tell us his story a little bit here, a cancer survivor, which I'm always blown away by getting a number of these stories in. My good friend, Steve Navaroli. So Steve, fire away and tell us your story a little bit, and I'm going to Q&A you on a few things.
Okay, well, the brief story is a longtime area sports journalist that I've actually kind of transitioned my career in other directions. However, all of those directions are still surrounded by sports, except for the little bit of work I do helping do communications at our house of worship. So, as far as my story, yes, 9 years ago, I was diagnosed with throat cancer. I've been cancer free. Actually, that was 9.5 years ago I was diagnosed. So we're going on that 10-year anniversary, but I've been cancer free since April of 2013. And, you just appreciate every day for what you have. I don't think I was ever as bad as people tell me I was, just because of my physical appearance. I never looked at it that way. I just took it day by day, and knew I would survive.
Well, along with your your sense of gratitude and optimism and everything, Steve, what other variables or traits do you think really helped get through this that challenging time?
Well, number one, I really did have a great network of people being very heavily involved in the local sports scenes. And, I had so much support from around the York County sports community that it's hard to even put into words. But when you have two people on a swimming team start selling T-shirts with your name on it, you draw inspiration from that. And when you're afraid that they're not going to be able to meet the minimum commitment of 72 and they end up selling 800, how do you not get strength from that? And it's not that I ever felt I was this amazing of a person that they wanted to do that, but it did at least tell me that I've had a positive effect in some people's lives, which that certainly helped. I had great support from coworkers at the time, giving me rides down to GBMC, and but I try to keep in touch. I had to take time off of work, but I still tried to kind of keep in touch with something every day, and that was very important for me.
Sure. And as far as I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the York Suburban Group that did the T-shirts. Am I right on that?
Yes, that is correct. It was there was a boy and a girl from York Suburban, Will Massey and Emily Schmidl. Emily had 4 other siblings. They were all swimmers. I covered her entire family. Will was an only child, and just great that they teamed up to do this. The school gave them the support and the permission, if you will, to do it. And it ended up really going out. The early part of my schooling in high school was all in Michigan. Well, they were sending them to Michigan. They were sending them to former classmates of mine here, and certainly people in and around the area. And, again, why do people want 800 shirts with my name on it? We benefited from it. But I think that was something, but just the outpouring of support that I got, and I still get, Tim. I mean, there's still, when I run into some people that maybe I haven't seen for 5-6 months, they're always asking how I'm doing. And to a degree, I'm like, well, of course I'm fine. I don't expect any, I don't expect to go backwards. But when you have that much power behind you, it wasn't going to beat me for what it was.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is I think I've had this conversation with 3 other people besides yourself Kerry Fleming, who is she breeds mini golden doodles out in Lewistown, Pennsylvania. Didn't get into her. We actually, it was more about a breeding scenario that we discussed, but she talked about, she's told us personally, as far as, on recovery from cancer. This young lady, Kim Mattice, who was married to one of my former wrestlers from New York State, she told her story, and she had two different things, and one of which, the second one, was after COVID hit, how much lonelier it was to have to go through that second session. And then a lady that we both know, I'm sure, is Deb Gable over there at Dallastown, who she has a remarkable story too. So it always, one of the things, as far as anybody that's gone through that and fortunately survived it, I'm always curious to see the traits, the key denominators, because let's face it, whether it's COVID or life itself, there's some challenges. And you guys that seem to get through this are a very special group of people that not only do you have life on top of you, but then you've had this challenge as well. So how does that fit in, Steve?
Well, I think that there is something to be said. There is a kinship if you're a survivor, and you don't necessarily have to know each other, but there is. You share something, and while it's on one way hard to describe, for me, I can look at it as such a positive thing, in my life. And I know, to some people that may sound ridiculous. Well, how can you say that getting cancer was positive? Well, for starters, it happened to me and not my child, one of my two children, not my wife. I was able to deal with it just because it was affecting me physically. I had the most amazing doctors in the world. I had everything that if somebody's going to go through it, I had everything you could ask for, and still do. I still have the amazing follow-ups with this incredible medical team and that. But, I became a better person because of the ordeal of going through cancer and surviving it. And, I think for me, the lesson was, people responded so positively to me during that, which told me that for all the times you question yourself, are you living right? Are you doing things the right way? Do you have the right attitude, not only towards yourself, but more so towards others? And I was fortunate enough to get the lesson to say, well, I must be doing okay by others. So now I just have to keep doing it.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And who was that medical team, Steve? Why don't we give them a shout out here?
Yeah, I was treated by the Johns Hopkins Head and Neck Cancer Center. It's actually called the Milton B. Dance Head and Neck Cancer Center. Their campus is actually on the campus of GBMC, which was nice because going there every day for 7 weeks, I didn't have to drive all the way down or be driven all the way down into Baltimore City. I could just go to Towson, which was a lot nicer. And that's where I go for all of my follow-ups. But make no mistake, these were Hopkins doctors.
Yeah. And do you have some of the names of them, Steve? Again, trying to give them as much credit as we can.
The most incredible person I met, and he would be on the short list of most incredible people I've ever met in my entire life's name, is Dr. Patrick Ha. And Dr. Ha, he's now actually a medical teacher at Cal Berkeley. So he's moved on into the education part. But, it wasn't just, here was a man that came in the room. My wife and I were there. I knew my diagnosis. Okay, what do we need to do? I talked with some amazing doctors here in York, but I got a referral down there. And we said, hey, we owe it to ourselves to look into it since we have the referral. The man comes in, talks for 5 minutes, and it wasn't even that long. He leaves to get some equipment. And I looked over at my wife and said, we are literally sitting in the presence of brilliance. It came through immediately. And then he had this unbelievable bedside manner on top of this brilliance that you just thought, how many people are alive because of this man? Honestly, Tim, for me, I was going to survive it. Wherever I was treated, I was going to survive this thing. However, some of the procedures and their method of treatment has just made my quality of life so much better. Again, I was going to survive. I never, ever, ever questioned it. But my life is better because of the way they treated me. And another one that I still see at least once a year is Dr. Jeffrey Nooner. He was my radiation oncologist. And, the kind of person that, especially if my appointment's at the end of the day, down there, we just talk about life as much as my health. I mean, he checks things over, but our conversations become more about life. And when I changed careers, 5 years ago or almost 6 years ago, he was a big part of it because he said, it's time to realize what you need to do. And you were kind of given a second chance. Go with your gut, go with your heart.
Mhm. Yeah, no, wonderful, wonderful. As far as, I always try to gear this toward, teens, young adults, that type of thing. What life lessons would you like to pass on to them? And then can you stick around for a little bit after we're finished here?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things, for me is I've always looked at life. I've tried to always been a positive person. And, the proverbial, I know it's the major cliche. You hear it all the time. You probably say it all the time. The glass is definitely half full. It is not half empty. And I felt that way long before I was ever stricken with cancer. But for me, I think the realization for me kind of came, Tim, was, listen, I'm not the brightest person out there. I'm certainly not the best looking person out there, but my strength has always been interacting with people.
Sure.
And if that's what you're good at, do it and enjoy it. I mean, for me, I envy somebody who's going to get 1,400 on an SAT and do great academic things. I have a nephew that's a scientist. I mean, he is so smart. And you think of how wonderful that is, but that wasn't kind of God's plan for me. But he gave me this personality that I'm thankful for every day, because again, the key to any success I've ever had in my life has been more how I relate to people, not how I do a certain job, if that makes sense.
Sure. No, that does make a lot of sense, Steve. Well, Steve, this has been fantastic. I think, we kind of, everybody knows about your sports background, everything. I want people to get a good idea of, the traits, the personality, the person you are, which obviously comes out very genuine as far as, being able to, take on and defeat this challenge. And you're certainly to be congratulated for it. That's for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it's funny because, I had somebody immediately when I said, hey, it's all behind me. He was a guy, a local coach. I don't mind saying his name, Kevin Bankos at York Catholic. Kevin immediately said, hey, we've got another hero. And boy, I struggled using that term. He's able to use it. I mean, his wife is a survivor and she's a hero. And I totally I absorb that for others, but for me, it's really, really difficult to call myself a hero because all I really did was just what I was supposed to do, and it was the support of everybody else. But if I look back and say, what did I do right? I guess it was that I treated people right, that they wanted to support me during this.
Sure. No, very well said, Steve. So yeah, just please hang for a minute while I conclude here. And thanks for everything. This was wonderful.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.